Hello, welcome everybody to Kids Are Talking. This is episode 30, Mental Health in the Mirror. We have a great show for you guys today. We are welcoming back our crew from turningpointct.org, and we're going to be talking about mental health and body image and eating disorders. And I'll let the panel tell you their story. We welcome your chats in the chat box, or if you're on our Discord server, just go to our show channel and you can interact with the show. And we look forward to talking with you soon. So let me get the show going.
I want to hear everyone's different perspectives and let everyone know that they're not alone.
Gives me hope for a lot of people because I know there's people that really struggle with
do things that you want to do to influence the world in the way you want.
Go out of your way to educate yourself by watching the show.
Everybody's always going to be struggling with mental health, yet nobody will know about it.
Kids Are Talking has given me an outlet to share my opinion and talk to people from all over the world. Dr. Don? Can y'all hear me?
Well, listen, these are the gems of the shows of panelists, that memories that live on in Kids Are Talking history. So,
well, I'm very here tonight, and COVID, we're still going through COVID, the aftermath. Now we're in Ukraine, and now tonight is mental health, body image, all different kind of wars. A war with COVID, a war in Ukraine and Europe, and a war with our bodies and mind and spirit. So tonight, episode 30, mental health in the mirror. Great graphic, Mike. Your graphics are always good. We have three wonderful guests. Let's get them on and let's talk about mental health, because this show is all about that war with the body image, the mind. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. We've got Kaylee's here. Sasha's back.
Hello, Sasha.
And
hello,
Robin's
Kaylee.
here.
Hello, it's Robin.
Hello.
All right. Kaylee's the veteran. Kaylee's back. Mental health is your specialty. We know that. And then we have Sasha and we have Robin. So I guess we'll start with you, Kaylee, because this is a show you wanted to do. You've lived the journey. You've lived this topic. So maybe you just start just saying hi and telling us a little bit about the importance of this topic tonight, because we know that this is all over the news. It's in magazines. It's on social media. And I know you know a lot about it. So why don't we start with you?
Okay, so I am Kaylee, and the reason I really wanted to dive into eating disorders and like body image issues is because, for those of you that don't know, last week was Eating Disorder Awareness Week, which is something that's like really important to me because I personally have struggled with an eating disorder. I struggled with anorexia, and I still to this day kind of struggle with disordered eating. So it's really important. And I think it's really important to point out that it's not always about body image. Like for me, a lot of it stemmed from my mental health, and it was in a way a form of like self-harm, because I really just hated myself, but I didn't have it in me to like physically harm myself. So I kind of just went for I'm going to starve myself. And like, that's going to be how I deal with my problems. And it was, and to this day, I still really have a hard time like eating regularly. But yeah, it's kind of like a little bit into my story.
I think that's important.
What's mine?
I said it's really important to know, that eating disorders aren't always about how it affects you on the outside, but it also just the way the world affects you and the way you interact with your diet.
As I was saying in the introduction, it's all within and without, and as I talked about the wars, the different wars we're at wars with ourselves, and you're talking about your own war with yourself and how then you took out your own self-esteem or low self-esteem on your body. And that's what people need to understand. So we're going to get into that tonight, okay?
Yeah, I know there's people that eat a lot when they worry, and then there's people that don't eat at all when they worry. And both are different coping mechanisms that people have to deal with, I guess.
Did you struggle with anorexia and bulimia? Did you have?
No, it was just really restriction. I don't think I hate puking. I don't think I could have done bulimia. Like
That probably makes people relieved actually who are watching the show. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard for people to understand what a painful thing that must be for people that have to do that.
Right.
So-
Yeah, it was just restriction, and it was almost like a victory every single time like I got past that like starvation feeling. It was just like it really was a battle like within myself, and like just such a struggle, because like it didn't start as like with my body. As I started to get slimmer and skinnier, I was like, okay, I like how I look because that's what I saw on social media.
Right.
But originally it has stemmed from and started because I was depressed, like, and I just like didn't even have like the will to eat. And it was just like, I'm so depressed. I just want to like wither away slowly, and like not eating was the way I did that.
It's a way of thinking you're getting control over your depression and your unhappiness.
Absolutely. I did not feel like I had any kind of control, like in anything, because when you're younger, it's really hard. Like, yes, when you're a teenager, it's like, okay, like I can make decisions for myself, but there's a lot of decisions and like control you do not have because you're so young, like you can't drive, you still live with your parents, and like, you have to get permission to do stuff. So I really felt like I had absolutely no control. So like controlling what went into my body, or rather what did not go into my body, was the way I felt like, okay, I have control. But like it's just such a toxic, like unhealthy way to deal with like bad and negative emotions.
Thank you for being here and being so brave to share your story to help so many people that are watching and not watching, and spread the word about the importance of this topic tonight. So good to have you back. And let's meet Sasha now. Okay, let's hear your story a little bit. Kaylee got us off to a good start, right? Now it's your turn.
Yeah, so I'm actually really similar. My eating disorder, I also struggled with anorexia. And I think mine also stemmed from my depression. It was really a way of coping for me. As I got older, as a child, I was very, I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, and I was very self-destructive toward myself. There was a period where I was pulling my hair out and all these things. But as I got older, I didn't want to do anything that would show on my body in a negative way. And I think my disordered eating started when I realized that that was something I could do to punish myself, but also in a way, in my mind, make people think more highly of me. Because in our society, we really praise people being skinny, and especially in high school, which I am right now, there's a huge culture around, disordered eating, and it's very normalized. And I think that it's applauded a lot of times. So yeah, for me, I think it's a combination of like all those stresses and all those pressures, and also my own personal dealing with my low self-esteem and depression.
Well, Sasha, again, same to you for being so brave and honest to be here tonight and tell us what you struggled with, and I'm assume still struggling with, but at least able to talk about it, which is really a big step. And Robin, welcome. Nice to have you here. Tell us about your story, and you've already heard from our other two guests, and tell us what you want to share with us. Yeah, she frozen. Uh-oh. Robin is frozen. Oh, Robin, you're not. You're here. You're unfrozen?
Yeah, we can't hear
Now
you.
we can't hear Robin. Okay, well, we'll get back to Robin. We're used to this. So why don't we go back, Robin? We can't hear you. But let's go back. Oh, you there? Are you there?
It is. I tried to do some reroute.
Can you hear me, Robin?
I can't. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
So tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us what you're doing.
So I feeling. Can we now?
Can't hear you, Robin.
You're cutting in and out a little bit,
You're
Robin.
cutting in and out, so we can't really hear
Okay.
you. Try one more time and let's see if we can do it. Go ahead.
Okay. So it started with disordered eating, and it led to anorexia and excessive exercising, as well as a binge and restrict phase of disordered eating. So a lot of that has to do with obviously like mental health and not being able to cope with external factors going on in your own life and resorting to an internal reaction to those things, and those were informed of and for
Hey, Robin, sorry, it's hard to hear you, but we can you guys translate? Can you?
But
can you
what we've
go
all
ahead.
kind of touched on, kind of.
Yeah, Robin, do you want to try like signing out and signing back in?
Yeah, why don't
we
you
have
do
a
that,
connection
Robin? That would
problem.
be easier to sign out and sign back in. Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. We'll wait for you to come back. Okay. See if you can fix it. Okay. So let's go back to the two of you. Poor Robin. She's now she's got to not only struggle with talking about body image but technology. So depression, self-esteem, mental health. Why in this country are we? I'll ask the two of you are perfect examples. What is going on for kids in America and across the world that are making people feel so struggling so much with themselves and your own mental health? What are some of the things that you feel have contributed to that? Uh-oh.
Now we don't have Kaylee anymore.
No, we don't have Kaylee. Robin, do we have you?
Oh, okay. I was muted.
Oh, good. Thank God. Oh my God.
I like to mute myself because I like fidget while I'm like, okay. So.
Well, we're happy to have. We're relieved. We're used to this, by the way. You know, it's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Both of this is for you as well. I mean, just mental health is such a big problem for teenagers in this country and out of this country. And what has escalated the whole thing? I mean, where do you think this all stems from in terms of your struggle?
I really think social media plays a really big part, because I know at least my feed personally, like it's filled with people who work out a lot and like, you know, track their macros, which is kind of like dieting is like a really big problem. And, you know, I feel like dieting used to really be something that like older people did, but I feel like diet culture has really moved down towards like younger people. So like, and especially with all these like, you know, skinny teas and like social media and like network marketing has really caused such a big issue, because people are like, oh, well, I want to be skinny because that's what I see on my feed. Celebrities are all, you know, surgery and skinny. So I think like media have really kind of like hit us hard, especially like the younger ones who are like all over social media.
And are you doing better now? I mean, what do you think has helped you? Or are you still struggling with this?
So I don't really feel like I struggle with like my body as much. Like there are definitely days where I see like I look in the mirror and I'm like, I don't like what I see. And I like see people on social media who are like super skinny, but then I have to like sit there and remind myself, okay, like these bodies aren't real. They're edited. It's like surgery. And I have to remind myself, like, that is not what a natural body looks like. Like, that is just not how real people look. Like, yes, some people are, like, naturally skinny, but, like, a lot of the people you see on social media are, like, dealing with eating disorders themselves, or, like, you know, they're editing their pictures to the point where they're not recognizable. So.
Sasha, what do you have to say about this and what Kaylee's sharing? You share some of the same things, or is it different for you?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think social media has a huge part in perpetuating all of the disordered eating and body image problems that so many teenage girls deal with. I think for me, it's like a combination. Not only, of course, is there, celebrities and people and influencers that you see, even like now, like watching the Oscars or the red carpet. Once you have that kind of idea in your head, that's all you can see. And for me, I know a lot of other people struggle with disordered eating, and even like for example, I'm in high school and I have a lot of people who I follow like on Instagram who are like my friends, who are my classmates. And still, I know a lot of people edit their pictures and have eating disorders themselves, but scrolling through Instagram, it's like, you feel like these people, and it's so hard to like kind of accept that this isn't reality. Because there's so much competition and there's so much, people at this point in their lives so want validation and approval. And social media has become such a big way for teenagers to get that. So I think the whole culture around that, it's not only for like real life anymore. I think a lot of people, want to focus on their body image because of their online profile.
How bad has it gotten for the two of you? And Robin, are you back? We hope to be able to hear from you very soon. Can we hear you?
I hope so.
We'll try. Let's finish. So, how bad has it gotten for the two of you in terms of the body image and the eating disorders? How low did it go for both of you?
For me, I mean, it's really hard to say because I think when you're in the midst of it, you never think that you're sick enough. You never think that, you see like, oh, I could be so much worse. I could be, whatever. But I think, yeah, there have been some really, really dark periods in this process, and it's been a fairly new development for me only through the past few years. But yeah, it's been really tough. I think people don't talk about a lot of the side effects other than like physical body. Like I lost my menstrual cycle for almost 9 months. Wow. And
I've heard that's a common thing for women.
Yeah, and I've developed some potentially chronic illnesses because of malnutrition and things like that. There's a lot of, I could go on and on about all the insane things I've done and haven't done because of disordered eating. But I think, some of the scariest things that have resulted from this are the things that like really impact my body.
And what are those things that really impact your body?
Like losing my period and like, developing these chronic illnesses that are really difficult to treat. And even if, I recover fully, they're still going to have remnants of being there, which is really hard.
How are you doing with those now?
It's still a process. I've been going to doctors to try and, get help and like treat some of these things, but it's a struggle. I'm in the second half of my junior year and there's a lot going on. I'm deciding where to go to college and I'm learning how to drive and I'm doing all these things, and it's really hard to be struggling with something like this in the midst of all that. But it's getting better. I think holding out hope and having a good support system has really helped me.
Has the best support system been your family, friends, therapy, or all the above?
Mostly like my family and a therapist.
So you recommend therapy for people that are struggling with this. And Kaylee, why don't you jump in? You're relating to some of the things that Sasha's saying.
Yes. So I also had lost my period. It was in high school that I was dealing with it, and I was not like sexually active. So I literally like in my mind had convinced myself like, could I be the Virgin Mary? Because like I didn't know I was a young teenager. I had no idea that was something that could even happen. Like, obviously you should think like, okay, yes, like it's going to negatively impact my body, but like the health issues that can happen, it's like unreal. Like it can really, really affect you, like not only mentally, but like physically. And I was a year-round varsity athlete not eating, and I have no idea how I did not like just pass out at like sporting events because I wasn't eating. I wasn't fueling my body, and I ran track, I played field hockey, and I was a varsity athlete. And yet my body, because I was so young, like, young bodies are pretty adaptable, and like it could adapt to like, the lack of food, but it wasn't healthy, especially because I was just going on about pushing my body like to its limits. Like I would finish my track races, and by the end of it, I would feel like I was going to pass out. And like, I was so exhausted that I could collapse because I wasn't eating.
What were you saying about this being sexually active or something about the virginity thing?
I had lost my period, but it wasn't because I was pregnant. But like I didn't know why. Like the only thing to me that would stop a period was like, oh, like I'm pregnant, but I was not. There was no way I could be pregnant.
Does it affect the way you feel as a woman and about your sexuality when you're struggling with all this or not? That's up for all of you to answer.
I wouldn't say necessarily. It's more of just like, it's scary when like something that is supposed to be like a natural thing that your body does just stops out of nowhere with no explanation. Like, because I don't think a lot of people realize that malnutrition leads to your cycle just stopping, because your body and your reproductive organs need those. And it's not just your reproductive organs. Like this could happen to males. Like it really, like, so basically when you don't have nutrients, your body starts attacking like different parts of your body to try and get nutrients. Like it goes for your muscle. Usually it won't go for your fat because that's like the last resort, but it'll start going after like all these different parts of your body, and it eats away at like really important vital organs. And that's how you end up with like, chronic illnesses or like your cycle disappearing. And a lot of people just think like, oh, anorexia is like being skinny, but it's way more than that. It's not just about like, looking skinny, and not even all anorexic people look like sickly thin. Like, so some people you might not even know.
Yeah, because it's really all this stuff is going on internally is what you're saying.
Right.
Robin, are you with us now? Could we hear you?
I think so. If you can hear me.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob. I think Robin's here. Why don't you just
Awesome.
jump in, Robin? Because we haven't been able to really hear you. Just jump in right with us right now, and what you're hearing Sasha and Kaylee talk about. What do you want to add? And we have a question from Norm. We have a question from Norm after we hear from you. And go ahead.
Sure. There's a lot of things that happen when you become malnutritioned. Obviously, like your cycle going away if you're female. And I think that's true that it is very like startling if like no one does really talk to it. No one informs you in health class like, hey, we're learning about anorexia and like how to essentially do it. And they don't tell you pretty much any of the side effects other than don't do it. So yeah, I definitely feel like that's not something that we learn about a lot of, is the negative health effects and the side effects of anorexia.
Where do you think people?
I feel like in health systems we learn a lot more. Ooh, I'm sorry.
No, I think your answer is where do people learn about? What would be the best way to learn about it? You're saying something about in health systems in schools. They don't really teach that.
Yeah, I would say, at least from personal experience, that is the majority of where I sourced my like early information. There's not a whole lot of, I would say, like social media information going around, even still to this day, if you don't like look for it. If you're not actively searching for it, it's not just going to pop up somewhere for you to find.
I'll ask this to all of you. It's been coming up in so many shows in the lab. This is our 30th show. How come the schools are not educating? How come you were not hearing about that in the schools? It's such a big issue for so many teenagers, so many young kids. How come we're not hearing about that?
I think it falls a lot under the rule of it's a taboo, essentially, still to this day, where, you know, no one really talks about it because no one really wants to think about it or have it happen to them or someone that they love or
in terms
know.
of body image, mental health, or all of the above?
Just everything. It's a pretty soul-sucking disease to have, so no one really wants to, like,
So what's it
talk
like for
about
three
it.
of
And
you?
it's also, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd say it's also very, like, it's a private disease. You don't really go about flaunting it. Like, I mean, I equate it to, like, breaking your arm and having a cast. You know, you want your friends to sign your cast and everything like that. But if you have an eating disorder, you don't want anyone to know.
And
So
how come you don't want? How
even if
come
you
you don't
do
want?
have it and if you're looking for help, it's kind of hard to find because you don't really want to
How
ask
come? How
anyone.
come this is a question of how come we don't? How come you don't? We don't want anybody to know about this particular this particular
Because they would
problem.
make
What
us
is it?
stop.
They'll make you stop. Is
Like,
that what you just said?
yeah.
When you're in it, you don't want someone to tell you how, like, you need to eat, because I will say I was there when Robin was struggling with her eating disorder. I've known her since we were kids, and I begged her. I begged her to eat because I could see all the signs because I had been through it myself. And, you know, obviously she knew it was a problem, but she was not ready yet to, like, have someone step in and help her. She wasn't ready to get help because, and when you're dealing with it, like, you are basically feeding into, like, the eating disorder. Like, if you view the eating disorder as like an outside being that's, or like an inside monster, essentially, like, the eating disorder is like, don't eat. Like, it basically makes you fear food, you know, like the food is evil and you don't want to eat. But, like, if someone on the outside, like, begging you, like, I see this is happening. I've literally watched you go from, you know, looking healthy to, like, nothing and withering away in front of my eyes. Like, you know, they don't want to talk about it because they don't want someone to tell them, hey, like, you have a problem, you need to eat. You know, like, I think that's really what she meant is, you know, you don't want help because, you know, you like what's happening to your body, because even if you look really sick, if you look in the mirror and you're like, I love how I look, to you, it's like body dysmorphia. You're like, oh my God, I'm finally, but even sometimes when you are at that sickly point, you look in the mirror and you're still like, I see all of these parts of my body that I hate. It's like hard because it's like really mental. Like, yes, it's physical, but like a lot of it is so mental. And like, you know, if people try and get you help, you fight it because you're like, no, I want to be skinny. Like, this battle is to be skinny and to be pretty and to look like everyone else on social media. Like, I don't care what happens to me. I just want to be skinny and pretty.
So we have two questions. Let's do Norm's question first, which was an earlier question, and then we have another one that's right in front of me right now. Unless you've been through mental health, I think that was Norm's question, right? If you haven't been through what you're all going through, thank you. It is so hard to understand the issues of mental health if you've never been through it. Is that correct? Don't you? I mean, that's what's also right. People don't get this if they haven't been through it. So, what do we do about that? You know, that's very lonely.
It's hard. I mean, I like the visual of the arm cast that you guys gave, which is, you know, if you have a broken arm, someone else can visualize that and they can relate to that. They can see, oh, there's something not right. But with the mental health struggles, you can't look inside someone's brain, so it's hard to empathize with someone if you haven't been there.
So it's so private and internal. And yet, what's it like for the three of you to be with us tonight and be sharing this with each other and with all of us, because this is a coming out, and it's such a lonely journey. So what is it like for the three of you listening to each other tonight?
Yeah, I can say for myself that, like, it's been probably like finding people who have also struggled with this and also like just get it has been one of the biggest things that's helped me, because, you know, I think especially with eating disorders, with other mental health, mental illnesses too, but I think especially with eating disorders, like, this is the first time that I've had like my mom look at me and like think that I was like unwell and like crazy. Like,
How did
trying to
how did she notice that, or how did she know about that?
you know, she can tell, I think when you live with a parent, they can obviously tell what's going on. And I think there's a big part, especially with me for my eating disorder, there's a big part about validation. And, I'm a perfectionist and I like doing things the right way and I like being successful.
And that's definitely part of this. That's definitely this perfectionistic thing is part of this, right?
Yeah. And it's that like, that like sick, like when someone says like, you look really skinny, I'm concerned, obviously, there's a part of you that's like, uh-oh, like, I don't know. But there's also a part of you that's like, that's a victory. And, there have been times when I've reached breaking points or, really lost it. And I felt so alone in this that I've tried to explain what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. And I know how absolutely absurd it sounds. And like the behaviors and the thoughts I have, like I know they're not, they're like insane. I know. But I can't explain how overpowering it is in the moment. Like you can't, it's like cognitive dissonance. You know that it's not logical.
Yeah.
But you do it anyway. And I've done things that like, 3 years ago, I would have thought are absolutely insane. And like, why would you ever do that?
And what would those things be? And then I know you two want to jump in. So after I ask this, what kind of things are you talking about that would be you feel insane?
There's been a lot of, I think, trying to go as long as I could without eating or hiding food in my room because I could not eat in front of other people. And like,
whole secret life is going on.
Oh my, it's completely secret. And like, you want people to see the resulting part of it, but you don't want them to see how you get there. And you especially don't want people to see the parts where you feel like you failed. And for me, that's like the times I've binged or the times I've like let go. That brings on such guilt and such like, I think, it's different for everybody, but for me, before all of this, I ate fairly normally. I probably ate like less, when I was a kid, my parents used to tell me to finish my dinner. And somehow through an eating disorder, my appetite has become even bigger. And I think that's something a lot of people don't talk about. Like, they'll be like, are you just not hungry? Like, no, it's not. So I think, it's almost easier for like the people around you to understand the parts of specifically anorexia that have to do with like starving yourself or dieting because that's something that's more accepted in our society. But if you ever try to talk about the things that after not eating for a while it just makes you break and then you eat everything, that is so looked down upon that it's shameful and like you don't want to talk about it. And I think
nobody wants
it's
to
really
talk about
hard.
binge eating.
So go ahead, Robin. Why don't you two jump in? I know you're both eager to jump in. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, I mean, I can say from someone who's been to like clinical treatment, like even no one there wants to talk about binges. Like it's just one of those extreme taboos where it's like, oh, you're anorexic. Like all you do is starve yourself. Like, yeah, all I do is starve myself, but I also like have a really hard problem knowing how to eat at all because sometimes it's no eating and when it's not no eating then it's all eating and that's not healthy at all either, especially for someone who is so malnourished. It's an extreme health problem.
Now, do you think this is also an educational issue where the school should help kids besides the food pyramid, learn how to eat healthy?
Absolutely. Learning how to, pace yourself, how to fuel yourself properly, when to eat when you're hungry, and, just basic healthy relationship with food skills.
And with yourself, of course, right, Kaylee? Getting a rhythm. Go ahead, Kaylee. You've been trying.
I think what she said about, listening to your hunger cues because so much of, restriction and starving yourself is ignoring them. And it's to the point where like, now there are days that I will only eat like one meal because I'll be working and like, you know, a hunger cue will come and I'll just be like, I just need to finish what I'm doing right now. And then, you know, it's gone. And next thing you know, I forget about it. And I literally, it's like 8 p.m. and I'm like, I've literally eaten like a Go-Gurt today. And like, that's it. And it's not even like intentional at this point. It's just my body is so used to me ignoring the hunger cues that it's like, all right, you're skipping this. Like, we'll just go away. Bye. But it's like, it's so important. Like, you know, it's learning how to like listen to your body again, because a lot of eating disorders is like literally just ignoring your body, like begging you, like, please feed me. And you're like, no, I don't want to. Like, it's not happening today. Sorry. Like, and that's really what it is. As you're like, you're so starving to the point where you're like, I could puke, but like, I'm going to just move past it because like, I'd rather be skinny, or I deserve to like suffer today. So I'm not going to eat.
So you're in a civil war with yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's definitely, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's awful. Like, it's just
torture. I mean,
yeah.
It makes it sound so torturous for all of you, right? I mean, wow. How can parents help? We had a question that was on the screen a little while ago. How can parents help their kids with this?
Well, I think they have to be really careful about how they like kind of deal with it, because, you know, a lot of parents will kind of just be like, well, just eat. And it's like, you don't think logically. I know, I just need to eat food. Like, it's not that simple. I think one of the most helpful things is like getting your child the help they need, because I mean, you guys have been talking a lot about like what can schools do and like why is this not being talked about in schools? There's a reason that there are like special like clinics specifically for eating disorders, because like it's such a specific issue. And like, I feel like, you know, because past generations have not learned about it, a lot of teachers probably have no idea how to like recognize the signs. I guarantee you a lot of people are not like educated, like teachers, even I'm sure some health teachers are not educated enough to like actually teach these things. Like, there's, because like even if they've gone to like college and like they're professionals, like a lot of people, like because of the taboo, it's like you get the general outline, but like unless you've lived it yourself or you have like watched someone you love suffer with it, like there's no way to know that there is.
I think
so. Let's go.
I think we also rely on the bottle. I mean, we rely on the approval process. You know, teachers can't just teach whatever they want. The curriculum has to get approved through the Board of Education.
I don't even think that comes from. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, a lot of that comes from the FDA or some other government organizations, and they don't even know. So I think the problem is I don't know if anyone really has an answer that everyone can agree on, that everyone says, okay, let's teach this to our kids.
Well, that's why I want to stay focused on this thing about parents and how they can help, because I think people need to hear, like, parents are watching. We have a lot of parents that are watching the show. What should we look for? How can parents help you? How can people help you? What signs can we look for? How can parents help you? Sasha?
I think firstly, and the biggest thing I would recommend, and it's going to sound like a cop-out, but if you see your child struggling, get them help. You are not a professional, and I know you think you know your child best, and I'm sure you do, but parents make mistakes. That's going to happen, and this is something that I know from experience. Those mistakes can be really, really harmful. You know, offhand comments or things, you know, this is something that's so complex and so, you know, difficult to do. Like she said, there's a reason that there are clinics and specific places for this. It's a very, very complicated mental illness. And I think if you see the signs, get your child help and get them help that from people who know how this works more than you do.
Why
just being there to support, you know, they're not looking for you to tell them to eat or to tell them to, you know, it's not helpful.
So why are parents in so much denial about this? Like, you know, in terms of, you say, like,
what was that?
I think a lot of parents are in denial they don't want to see that their kids are struggling with this, right? How about the two of you want to jump in on this question also in terms of how parents can help and how do we get parents to face this and how do your
Well, so I see a comment about like, what if the kids refuse to help? So that's the thing. Like, they will absolutely push back at first. Like, if there's pushback, do not be surprised. And as horrible as this is going to sound, it might take like an extreme, like an emergency or like something health-wise drastic happening before they actually end up in treatment, because like they'll fight you. Like, they're not going to want the help.
Well, that's the question. It's funny you're answering the question from Norm.
I know, I saw it.
That was
That's
really
why I'm
good.
answering.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, so it's tough with the kids refusing help, right?
It's common, like, it's the worst part is it's a lot more detrimental than, say, like a kid not wanting help for anxiety or depression, because there are like very serious health issues. Like,
Right.
I know young people have had like teens having multiple heart attacks because they were so malnutritioned because their body was going after the muscles of their heart.
Wow.
Because they had no other place to grab nutrition.
Wow.
Like, it can be that serious. And unfortunately, it might take like, an inpatient, like ending up in the hospital and then an inpatient stay before the kid gets help. Like, I wish I could tell you can force your kid, but if you force them, it's probably not going to end well.
So let me ask you, because Norm had another really good question. Were you three open to help? Catch us up. All of us are watching you tonight in terms of hearing how brave you're all being. Were you the three of you open for help? Who wants to? Robin, were you open for help? Sasha, Kaylee, go ahead.
Kinda.
Kind of. Tell us what that means. What does kind of mean?
Yeah, I did need medical intervention before I got help. So
What kind of
what
kind of medical intervention did you need, Robin?
I needed the hospital. I needed an ER. I got myself into a car crash because my brain stopped while I was driving, essentially. Which surprisingly happens to a lot of people with anorexia while driving, because your brain just does not have enough nutrition, so it fogs out, and sometimes it just, it happens. But yeah, so I needed medical intervention before I sought professional help for my eating disorder. I'd like to say that there was something anyone could do. I have to say it's all hindsight. But yeah, sometimes your eating disorders are just really ugly and really, really all-encompassing. So
do you feel that you've come a long way now as a result of this in terms of?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I would recommend treatment for anyone.
So what do you think has been the most helpful thing for you to get you to where you were in that car and having your brain completely out of it? But how did you get to be where you are tonight with us? What would you say was the most
nutrition and therapy.
And what was the most important thing in your therapy for all those therapists who are out there watching? What do you think is the most helpful thing for somebody who's going through what you're all going through to get from a therapist?
I think that group therapy for people with eating disorder is a really great tool, because just like this format now, we're able to finally expose and, share all of our feelings and all of our struggles. So it makes everyone not feel so alone, and especially with such isolating.
Yeah, you're isolated. And you get validated, right?
Exactly.
You realize you're not alone,
you get
right, Sasha?
Validated for your struggles that are so internal.
So how about for the two of you in terms of Sasha? How about you answer that question too in terms of your getting help and being open to it? What did
Yeah.
What did you do?
So for me, it was also kind of a little bit of there was some medical things that had happened that kind of opened my eyes. I had to stop learning how to drive because it wasn't safe. And now, I'm like starting back up, but I'm really behind. And that was like a really big, I did this to myself, and like now I have to but that was really scary. And then also when I started developing, like I now currently have something called chronic fatigue syndrome.
Tell people what that is for people that don't know.
So it's basically not an autoimmune disease, but it's a chronic illness in which you have major fatigue, like to the point where you know, you can't do things. Like I had to stop driving because it wasn't safe anymore. You know, sleeping for like hours and hours and hours, being unable to move, not being able to go to the bathroom because you can't move your body.
Did the eating disorder create that? Or were they related
It
or not?
sparked it, yeah.
Because I've never heard that before, actually. In what way did that spark it? That's interesting.
So
I never knew that.
basically what happened is the malnutrition kind of got my body into this state of conserving energy to a point that it was over conserving energy, and my body now won't trigger like energy, and it doesn't process it the same way. So a lot of times when you struggle with something like an eating disorder and then this happens, it's not super common, but it does happen. Even after you start eating again, your body doesn't really know how to process the energy that comes from that food.
Wow.
And yeah, it, you know, there were also some other things that played into it, but my body not being able to fight off, you know, they think potentially COVID could have caused some of this.
I was going to ask how COVID played into any of this.
Yeah, so my mom actually has long COVID, like real long COVID. And so they think that if she was able to get like all those things, luckily I didn't get any of like the lung or heart things like she has, but they think that a virus like that could have started this, and the malnutrition from not eating made it worse. Yeah, so that was really like a step. And then after I lost my period for 9 months and like it wasn't coming back, I think that was like really like a turning point for me where I was
scary. Scary, right?
Yeah, it was really scary.
And what made that a turning point for you?
Like I said, I'm in the midst of planning my future right now, and I'm in the middle of school. And I'm someone, I really care about my grades and like going to college, and I felt like I was really slipping and it was impossible for me to do everything I needed to do. And, you know, especially for someone with an eating disorder, I couldn't exercise anymore, and that was terrifying. Like,
wow. So where are you now? Where are you now, Sasha, in terms of you're with
now,
Robin got to where are you now with all this?
Now I'm getting better with the help from like therapy. I've been, you know, kind of stepping back on like exercise and things like that to not overexert my body, and I've been focusing on you know, the things that really need to get done, and focusing on getting proper nutrition without, you know, falling back into those habits. You know, it's still a struggle, but I think having a good support system and having a good therapist with a plan and
Tell us
you know,
about
validation
Yeah,
really helps.
so tell us about the good therapy with a plan, because I think for people who are watching tonight, what would be good therapy and a plan? You know, and we're going to get to you too with this, Kaylee, after we're done here. What was the key thing for you with therapy? I assume you're still in therapy.
Yeah. So for me, it was both just like, you know, a lot of eating disorder treatment, it's both about like physical health as well as psychological. So, you know, it really helped to get the validation. Like, I don't really exercise much anymore because I can't. And I was pushing myself because before I went into therapy, I felt like I had to, because, you know, there's this thing in our society about exercising all the time and like being fit and whatever, even though I was like passing out on the mat and like, you know, clearly not healthy. So getting the validation from a therapist.
What kind of validation were you getting from the therapist? Or are you getting?
You know, like, you don't need to do this, and, you know, for your health, you need to take a step back. I think for a lot of people who struggle having that, like, it's okay from a professional really helped me. And setting up a plan of like things I could eat that wouldn't make me really upset, but like would still give me proper nutrients, and talking with my family on how to treat me when I'm struggling.
So being open with
Really
your
helped.
parents.
Yeah, because I think being in a hostile environment, not a hostile environment, but what feels like a hostile environment regarding food in your house while having an eating disorder is really, really hard. So having someone there who knew what steps to take and knew what to tell my family and could explain it in a way that I couldn't.
Well, family therapy is important. Having the therapist work with the family is good. But getting back to the question before about parents in terms of understanding all this, so that's
Definitely.
great. And Kaylee, how about you? Why don't you give us a chance to hear where you went with all this?
I never had eating disorder specific treatment. I've been in therapy, throughout my life. But I never had an actual eating disorder specific person, and I'm sure it would have helped immensely. I've basically been trying to navigate it on my own.
Were you refusing help for a while, or did you finally embrace
Yeah,
it?
oh my god. So I had never openly said it that I was anorexic, but obviously the signs were there of me someone offering me food and being, oh no, thank you, I'm okay. And my family knew, my immediate family, my external family, it was very obvious that it was happening. And they'd kind of make little oh, Kaylee, you should really eat. And I was like, I'm all set, thank you though, I appreciate it.
Did you get therapy, by the way, for this?
I did not get anything eating disorder related. I've not had any
No
it's
therapy.
just been me navigating it, and I still to this day struggle with disordered eating.
So how come you don't get the help like the other two girls?
I don't know. I guess Robin, stop looking at me like that.
Robin, what do you think? You look. You got the book, Robin. You want to say
I'm
something?
just saying. I mean, why not?
What's that, Robin?
I'm just saying. I mean, why not?
But Kaylee,
for that.
Did you say she's working on it, or what did you say?
She said, "Why not?"
Oh, why not? You asking her why not?
I don't have the money for that. I've got $3 to my name. Well,
but there are clinics. There are low-fee clinics.
The route that I went was I got a nutritionist, a registered dietitian to work with, and so basically she knows that I have a history of an eating disorder, and I got her to try and help balance out my hormones from years of basically not properly having proper nutrition. So I got a registered dietitian that I work with. I check in with her every week. And she basically people think of dietitians and think, oh, it's about losing weight. No, for me, it's about learning to eat and regularly eating throughout the day to the point where it's you should set reminders, because it's to the point where I said, a hunger cue comes and I'm in the middle of something and it just passes. And I'm
so you'd rather, in terms of the inner struggles, like Robin, you feel, I had a sense you feel Kaylee could do more, or do you think what Kaylee is doing is enough? Because you know her, right? You know Kaylee.
I think she's doing fine.
You're doing fine. So who do you talk when things are emotionally bothering, when you have emotional issues going on? Who do you go to, Kaylee? Who do you talk to?
I like to bottle them inside. But I have a great support system. I have a lot of friends. And I mean, I haven't been in therapy in years. I tried going, and I just when the pandemic started, I tried doing teletherapy, and I've someone who's been a dual diagnosis situation. I've done it all, but at this point in my life, I just am not interested in therapy, and it's the truth. I just don't go. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I go to therapy.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Can you repeat that?
I do not go to therapy, and I'm just not in a place where I want to be in therapy.
And the reason for that is just
it's hard, and I understand the work and the toughness is worth it. But I'm not at a point where I'm not really functioning, but I think probably I could get more help in terms of eating disorder, because I think mental health.
Yeah, mental health. Go ahead.
in terms of my mental health, like I'm like not in a bad place. Like I'm functioning fine in that sense, but like I definitely like eating, like disordered eating is something, even working with someone, it's like I have to want it for myself.
Yeah, so you
Not
have
that I don't want to eat, it's like literally just so hard to retrain my mind and my body to like regularly eat. It's not even like intentional, like I'm not no longer at the point where I'm like punishing myself. It's literally just the fact that it's like it's not something I think about, because for years my entire focus was just like not eating.
I have two quick questions for all three of you. How does this affect dating, social life? I don't know if any of you are dating, or does this affect your dating life, your social life with friends? Robin, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like we've all been saying before, it's a very isolative disease. So when you bring other people into it, it gets complicated. You're having to hide things from the people that you care the most about, and that you want to care the most about you. So it definitely puts strain on those relationships.
Sasha, Kaylee, you want to quickly, just a very quick answer. Do you want to answer that question quickly for people? Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I think because it's so isolating, it can be really difficult to be in social situations, especially around food. You know, I don't know that like my friends know, but like I know that if I were seeing it from the outside, I would know what was going on.
Affect your desire to date other people? In terms of dating somebody, would it affect that part of your life too?
Yeah, I think it can be difficult. I think it's something you don't want to talk about, especially when you're first starting meeting someone and talking to someone. I think, you know, that's obviously something that, like, yeah, I think even more so than other mental health problems, that's something you don't really want to talk about.
Kaylee,
I think it's also hard because a lot of dating revolves around eating, right? You go out to eat, you go out for ice cream, you do.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, and not just dating, but any social situation that makes it really difficult if it revolves around food.
And you get self-conscious, probably, I would think too. Kayla, you want to quickly just answer that question for us? Do you have any, very quickly, just in terms of your social life, your dating, or?
So one of my stints in like disordered eating was tracking macros. So it made going out to restaurants like, you know, socially very, very stressful, because it's like, I don't know how to properly track this. And I would panic about like, I don't know what I'm eating. And it got to the point where I literally had a panic attack because my boyfriend nicely made me eggs for breakfast. And he made them all in one pan and he was going to split it. And I literally had a mental breakdown and didn't want to eat it because I did not know how much egg was there. And I didn't know like how many nutrients and like what I was going to be eating, to the point where I like was crying about it. And it was after that I decided, okay, tracking macros is not the way to try and ensure that I eat enough to fuel my body. Like I need to just learn how to eat first before
Yeah, so that, and with such an eating culture, as Mike says, going to restaurants, everything's so focused around it. You got a very nice compliment from Norm, by the way. He's a regular all-in guy, chat room guy for us. He says you guys have just been, ladies have been wonderful tonight in terms of giving people information and giving feedback. So I have one other very quick question to ask and a very quick answer. We have 3 women on tonight. The big controversy that around eating disorders is, do women struggle with this more than men?
No, absolutely not.
It's such a stereotype, right? It's always seen as women going through, but it just quickly, it's the same for guys too, as far as you know, and you know the guys.
Yes, men, especially. Yeah, and think about like those fitness guys that are all over. Like most of those people have like struggles with eat, especially the ones who obsessively, like, you know, those people who are like, oh, I'm clean eating, and like most of those fitness people are dieting when really they should not be dieting, because they should be eating more food than the typical person. But most of those people, like those men, all the muscular dudes you see on IG, they have eating disorders.
I think
they're like obsessive around their food, and they're like afraid to eat a lot of stuff.
Good for people to hear that. Robin, did you want to add to that?
No, I just think it's true. Yeah, I mean, you never know. Men definitely have the most silent eating disorders out of all of us. You never know who is saying, and if you think they are, they probably are.
You say men have what? Men have what? I'm sorry, Rob. Couldn't hear you. Men have what?
Oh, they have even more silent struggles.
Silent struggles.
Ah. Interesting. You think more so than women
Yes,
because of
because
the
nobody expects it.
It's the macho thing, you mean?
Nobody expects it from men.
Nobody expects it from men. And
That's
Sasha,
why.
yeah, Sasha, you want to quickly jump in on that? Do you agree with your two friends here?
Yeah, totally agree. I think it's probably even more taboo for men than women because at least with women, there is some culture around disordered eating. For men, I think orthorexia is super prominent.
Would you say that in a word again? What is that word?
Orthorexia, it's basically it's that like major clean eating where it gets to the point where it's unhealthy. It's an obsession with like healthy food. With anorexia, it's different. Yeah, because a lot of times with anorexia, you see like low calorie foods, even if they're not like healthy, like like Diet Coke or anything like that. It's more focused on the calorie intake, and orthorexia is very much calorie intake, but it's also like that like healthy, and you see like you were saying, like with a lot of like the gym guys, that's really prominent.
Interesting. All right. So what we do on Kids Are Talking, you've been amazing, all three of you. We'll start with you, Sasha. Just we always ask, what would you tell people watching this show tonight, what they could learn from tonight, and what you would help them with to deal with this topic tonight? What would you want to say to America, or be even beyond America?
Yeah, I think there's two different things. If you're struggling with disordered eating or an eating disorder, or you think that you might be going down that path, don't be hesitant to get help. I can say it's really helped me, and it's really important. And this is a really debilitating disease that can take over you really quickly. So definitely get help if you feel like you need it, and don't be ashamed. And for people who, parents or anything like that, be there to support your child. I know that it can be a really difficult thing to see someone you love struggling with something like this. But remember that it's not necessarily their choice. They're not, doing this because they like really want to. It really takes over you, and it is a mental illness.
And what would you, go ahead, finish.
Yeah.
What would you tell the schools?
I would tell the schools that this is a really huge problem that needs to be talked about more. And I understand that it's taboo and it can be triggering, but I think we delve into so much when it comes to depression and suicide, and that's great. But this is something, especially with teenagers and especially with kids nowadays with social media, it's something that really, really needs to be addressed. And I think there's not a lot of information that teenagers know how to get themselves regarding this. So having information in schools would make a huge difference.
Thanks a lot, Sasha. And how about you, Kaylee?
First off, like, you're definitely not alone in that, your mental state does have a lot of influence. Like, it's not always about like body image and like I've never in my life been overweight. I've always been very slim my entire life. So mine did not stem from thinking I was like fat.
So what do you want to tell people, Kaylee? What do you want them to learn?
That one, there is help out there. And I want people to know that it is very, very serious. Because I don't think a lot of people realize that it's more than just like being skinny and pretty. Like, there are a lot of health consequences that come with it. So if it's something you're struggling with, like, you really do need to go and get the help and like try to help yourself before it gets to that point where like it's against your will help and like you're already dealing with really bad health issues.
Thanks, Kaylee. Appreciate that. And how about you, Robin?
I would.
And you're back. Which, by the way, before you say anything, Robin, I'm so glad we got you back tonight. Really, I mean, wow! I don't know what you did, but you did a great job, right, Mike? Getting back here, so you get the last word tonight for that reason. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I would just like to say that to anyone with an eating disorder, you're not alone. You're completely valid in your psychosis, and your thoughts, whether they be irrational or delusional, they're valid. They have truth. So don't let anyone tell you that like you're just a crazy head.
Say that again. We're starting to lose you. I jinxed us. Say that. I like that last thing. Can you get that out for us?
Not,
Something about crazy or something?
if that makes any sense. I really
Uh-oh.
life is worth
Did
living.
you all
honestly.
get can you translate what that last profound thing she said? Did anybody hear it? Go ahead, try that again. Go ahead.
Life, living, and experiencing the joys of life, whether they be small or little, is worth 1,000% more than sitting alone in your darkness and despair.
That's
So
poetic.
find the resources, find help.
That's poetry, Robin. It was worth hanging in there to hear that last poetic statement, right, Mike?
Definitely, absolutely.
What do you think, Mike?
Listen, I think this was a great show. We had a great panel. I think just talking about what we were earlier in the show, as far as kids not wanting to take the help that's available. As a parent, I find the best way to get your kids to listen to you is to make them want to do it on their own. So instead of telling them what to do, try to give them the tools to learn and give them the tools to make those decisions on their own so they can come to those decisions and find help because they want it.
And make people feel safe.
Right.
Make people feel safe to feel it's okay to be not okay. It's okay to be not okay, and it's okay to ask for help. So I want to thank the three of you. Join us if you want to join us backstage. We always meet after the show. And I want to thank all of you for listening tonight. And let's pray for peace in Ukraine and around the world, and for anybody that's struggling with body image or anything that has to do with mental health. We need to talk a lot more about mental health in this country. This show, once again tonight, exemplified the importance of really giving value to mental health. We certainly have a lot of things right now to deal with in terms of coping.
Absolutely.
It's never been more serious, right, Mike?
Absolutely.
So for all of us at Kids Are Talking,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.